Unreal 5.6 is out and it is looking really good. Lots of exciting new feature and improvements in this version. So we're gonna take a look in this video about the workflow between Advanced Skeleton and Unreal. So let's go ahead and launch Unreal 5.6. And we're going to make a new project. So we click on the category games. We're going to use the template called third person. I'm just going to call this test number 1 and create. When you open the third person game template, it has already a mannequin in here. And it has this test level ready to play. So if you hit the play button, you'll see it loads up the mannequin. You can navigate around. It's got all the logic set up for walking, running, jumping, etc. Not only that, but if you look in the characters, you'll see there is the mannequin character and there is a control rig for the mannequin. And if you open a control rig, you can see that that's a full animation rig that allows you to animate this character, and it's got all the advanced functions in here, such as finger controllers, and it has all the options for IK, FK switching on both the hands, feet, and the head. So what we're going to look at now is how we can use Advanced Skeleton to replace our own character with this mannequin character, and we're going to get it both game ready to play, and a control rig for animating in Unreal. So let's jump over to Maya, open Advanced Skeleton, and for this example, let's open one of the demo characters. Let's choose Powder. And the main function that we're gonna be using here is that we want to export this character, but with a skeleton matching that of the mannequin in Unreal. And the quickest way to achieve that is to go to export and check out this thing here called Mannequin Export. It's got a little help image here. If we open that, you see that it explains that the Mannequin Export essentially will export the rig using the mannequin skeleton. Now, if we go ahead and attempt to run this, there's a couple of things that will come up. First thing is the option. You can choose what Unreal version. For now, we're gonna make sure that's Unreal 5. Scale to match. We're gonna want to make sure that it's on. And what that does, it scales the character so that the length of the legs match the mannequin. Because if that's not the case, then once you enter the gameplay, you'll find that the pre-existing run-walk cycles would cause feet slippage if the legs were not the same length. So we're going to want that on. Also, there's an option here for face. And yes, we are going to want to have this face rig in Unreal as well. But you see here, that's disabled. And it has a little message here that says, convert to blend shapes to include the face. So that's what we're going to start out with. We're going to go to face section, under blend shape, and this is where it converts the driving system into blend shape. So let's just hit convert. And that has converted the face setup to blend shapes. One way you can quickly double check that is if you select the geometry, you'll see that there's this blend shape node here, and here are all the targets. So the rig is still working pretty much as before, but it's now, instead of driving joints, it is driving blend shapes. All right, let's close the face section, go back to the export section again, and we hit the mannequin export. Now we can see there's no longer the disabled text in the face section, but there is a new option, and the option is open face UA asset folder. And we will look at what that means. For now, just make sure that that checkbox is on, and you'll see once it's completed what that actually does. and we hit OK. Now, here we actually run into an error message, and we're going to take a closer look at what that is. So if we open the script editor here and take a look at what it says error, a object with the name head already exists. Rename this to another name first. So for the case of powder here, the name of the geometry for this head object is head. Now that's a reserved name that's gonna need to be available for the Unreal Mannequin skeleton. So we're just gonna rename this to any other name. Let's go with head geo. So now we try again, hit Mannequin export. We'll make sure both of these checkboxes are on, and we hit OK. And I'm just gonna make a folder on the desktop called powder. And I'm also gonna call the FBX powder. And you'll see as soon as that's finished exporting, it's gonna pop open a Windows Explorer. And that was what the face option was referring to. It's pop opening an Explorer, showing you the location of this file called face_CR for control rig UA asset. It's a little readme text file here. It says copy this to your Unreal project. So we'll leave this window open for now. I'll show you later how that is going to give us the face control rig in Unreal. A couple of warnings here. That is not to be too concerned about. It's just saying it's any constraints have been baked. And we can then jump over to Unreal. I'll make a folder in here as well called powder. Now we'll grab the FBX file and we'll just drag and drop it into Unreal. And as we do that, the import options are going to pop up, and this is important. This is when we're going to change one of the settings. And quickly we can jump back to the help image here, because that's where it explains that in the FBX import options, we are going to change the setting called skeleton. Instead of none, we are going to, for you Unreal 5, choose SK Mannequin. So let's do that in the import settings, where it says skeleton. Instead of none, we are going to choose SK Mannequin. And then we hit import. All right, there it is. Now, there's a bunch of material nodes here, which makes it a little bit cluttered. That's why I have some of my preferred filters here, so we don't need to see all the material nodes. Now, let's go ahead and first off, replace the mannequin in the gameplay. And the way to do that is under all content third person, there is something here called the BP_third person, blueprint third person character. Open that one. And out of all the tabs here, I suggest clicking viewport. That gives us a preview of what our character looks like. And in the components window here, where it says what mesh to use, we can over here swap out where it says SK Queen Simple. We'll swap that to powder. And there you can see that's going to give us our powder character as the main character. We can then close that and just hit the play button. And there you see we have our powder character. And it's all set up, working, jumping, running around. Shift escape stops the gameplay. Next, let's give powder here a control rig. Now, the way we're going to do that is we go back into all content character mannequin. And under rigs, we see our mannequin body. This is the control rig that we are going to use. Now, instead of just replacing the mannequin control rig here, I'm actually going to make a copy of it. So I'm going to grab this control rig from the mannequin. I'm going to drag it over to powder and say, copy it here. We now have a copy in here called CR mannequin body. For clarity, I will rename it from mannequin to powder. So it becomes CR powder body. And we'll open it up. And on the right side, if we go to the preview settings. Where it says preview mesh is currently SK Mani Simple. Replace that with powder. And there we go. We now have powder in here. And we can test that that's working by selecting any of these controllers. And we confirm that that is indeed working. All right, we now have a control rig for the body. Now we're also going to want a control rig for the face setup. And now we're going to come back to this folder that automatically opened up when we did the control rig export. And we are essentially going to want this face control rig into our Unreal. Now, you're not going to be able to drag and drop it into Unreal this way. That is not going to work. What we're going to need to do is you determine what folder you want it in. Right click and say show in Explorer. And that's where we're going to want to drag and drop it in. So we drag and drop, make sure we copy. And now that's copied in there. And as soon as that's copied in there, it appears in here. Face CR. Then we're going to want to double click on it to open it up. And by default, that's just going to be that face controller lying on the ground as such. So two things we're going to need to do now. First, go to preview settings and make sure that that's powder. So now we have the powder character, but this is still stuck on the ground. And to fix that, make sure you're in rig hierarchy tab, right click and choose import. And in the drop down menu here, choose powder. As soon as we do that, you see that it has detected the skeleton, so it now knows where to attach itself to. And we can do a quick test to make sure it's working by selecting some of this controller, moving them around. And that does indeed seem like we have a working face rig here. We will now close that and let's see the body and the face rig come together now in a new animation. So we'll make a new level sequence. I'm just going to start out with dropping the skeleton mesh where I'm going to want it. So that becomes available in the outline here. Then I'll say I want a new level sequence. I'll open the level sequence. That takes us into this animation mode. And then we drag our powder skeleton mesh into the level sequence. And now we can add rigs to the skeleton mesh. So we will just hit that plus button here and add the track and say control rig. We are going to want our body rig. So that's CR powder body. There we go. We got the full control rig with all the FK, IK switching, finger controls, and all that. Then we'll hit plus button again, and we will say we also want the face control rig. So now we have face and body. And we're going to want one more thing, and I'll show you what we need and why. If you select the wrist here, and you apply some twist rotation, you can see that that's not looking correct because that is just twisting at the wrist and not distributing the twist upwards towards the arm. The same goes the other way. So if you select the arm twist, you can see that all the twisting is happening right at this joint, whereas it should be distributing the twist to give it nicer deformations. Now that to get that correct, what we're going to do is say we're going to want to add one more track, and the one we're going to want is a control rig, and we're going to want the one called CR Mannequin Procedural. And as soon as we add that, you can see straight away that resolves all these twisting issues. So all these corrective deformations by twist joints are done by that procedural rig. So we now have the procedural taking care of the twist. We have the body control rig where we can select the top node that allows us to switch. So you can see it starts out with IK feet. If you want to switch that to a FK leg, you select that top global controller here, and where it says leg right FKIK, you can just switch it over and you have an FK leg. And the face, that's working. Here we got the emotions controller. You see we have all custom attributes as channels. So if you select the emotion controller, you see we get happy, angry, sad, surprise. I'll show you one more thing, that if we jump right back into Maya, you can see Powder has some additional controllers for the hair. If you wanted to add some of this in here, just right click on our skeleton mesh and say right click and create control rig. We'll call this hair. And now we're going to want this to be fairly simple. So we are just going to want to find those joints. We got the hair, and let's create a new node, and we're going to want some jiggle. So just type jiggle, and there's something here called add jiggle. And we're going to want to execute the add jiggle, and we'll just specify that both the controller and the joint is this. Just say use selected item, child to jiggle, we'll just use the same, and that should now make just that right hair jiggle. We can quickly add 2 more. Actually, we can just copy paste and paste again, and make sure they are all gonna execute. There we go. Close that. If we now open our level sequence again, we have the body rig, we have the face rig, we have the procedural rig. Let's go ahead and add one more. Add control rig hair. So let's give that a quick test. Let's select the neck and rotate, and there we go. The hair is dynamically moving. And if you want it, you can add that hair dynamics into the gameplay as well. The way to do that would be to locate the blueprint, which is actually here on the Mannequin animations unarmed. Here we got this animation blueprint. That's the one we're going to want to open up. And the anim graph, just make sure we have one more control rig here to run through before it computes the result. And this one is going to choose the hair. We can close that. And now if we hit play, we should see that the hair is reacting to our animations. Alright, that's it for Unreal Mannequin exporting into Unreal Engine 5.6. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.